Alright. Anyway, so, Justin, I am attempting to fix the problem that I made earlier today by telling you the wrong pattern, and you'll notice that I'm looking back and forth, looking towards the camera and away from the camera. It's because I'm testing two different lenses on two different cameras. Anyhow, we're talking about the fifth pattern and the first pattern, and when I switched patterns, we told you to go in the wrong direction. Here's your guitar, alright, or anyone's guitar. We're going to do this in the key of A. It's possible that you play in the key of E minor sometimes, and A minor sometimes, and then B minor sometimes. And whether or not you consider that you're in E minor, A minor, B minor, when you're using the pentatonic patterns, maybe it's a difficult question to answer. Different people think of it differently. A lot of people that are better guitarists than me disagree with me. A lot of people that are better guitarists than me agree with me. That lens is dirty. This lens, you're dirty. Dirty lens. Anyhow, so we'll just use whichever one makes the most sense to you. You want to do what is useful. So what I think is useful is knowing which pattern you're supposed to be in at all times. Let's use the key of A minor. Alright. So in the key of A minor, your root note is going to be an A. In the key of A major, your root note will also be an A. The difference is the pattern that's formed from that note on. So major is whole half, minor is whole half, whole half, whole. Basically, major 3, 4, 7, and 1. Those are your half steps. Minor 2, 3, 5, and 6. Those are your half steps. Now the pentatonic patterns, you don't have all of those notes. As a matter of fact, you have no half steps here, but you still do have a major and minor pentatonic pattern. You can see without the half steps, it's maybe becoming less important whether you're in a major key or in a minor key. It's also less important whether or not you're in the key of G or the key of C. The difference between C and G is only one sharp. Now, if that note's not even in the pentatonic pattern, why does it matter like which key you're in? So it's actually why you can move these around a lot. But we're going to say that we're first not going to move them around, and then we'll move them around later if that's more useful. So the fifth pattern, there's a root note, there's a root note, and there's a root note. Now it's important to know when you're looking at the fifth pattern and the first pattern that half of the notes from this pattern are identical to half of the notes from this pattern. Okay, so these notes here are the same as these notes here. So one of these notes would be pretty easy to find. Okay, one of these notes is this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, height-wise, I didn't draw them the same. So now, as it turns out, this is where the confusion started for me and where I started telling you the wrong thing. There's two different kinds of octaves that you can find on your guitar. As a matter of fact, as I'm saying this now, I'm realizing this is exactly where I got confused because I started to trust the octave more than what I knew about the scales. Anyway, let's look at the octave. You can do root octave, right? So you skip a string, skip a fret. You have root octave. Okay? Probably need to draw these bigger. Okay? Or you can have, I don't want to mess up this fretboard over here, so, or you can have the one that's like root, skip 2 strings, and then go back, skip 2 frets, root octave. Now if you count up your scale pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? Actually it'd be 7, 1. I don't know. I sang a major scale instead of singing a minor scale, even though we're talking about minor, because I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, so there's a root octave. This is like 4th finger, 1st finger that we talked about. Now this is actually the 4th pattern that I accidentally showed you today instead of the 1st pattern. Actually, no, it was worse, right? Because I was talking about the 1st pattern, but I put it where the 4th pattern was supposed to be. So like I really messed it up. Now, this is the octave pattern that you could use for the 4th pattern. So that's if you want to take your original octave, put your pinky there, and go down to get your next note. So, but from the fifth pattern, let's say this is the fifth pattern. So here's the fifth pattern. This would be the fourth pattern. What am I doing? So you could use that octave shape to look, to figure out how to play the fourth pattern. So this is how I showed you how to find the pattern, which should be used for the fourth pattern. But we're not talking about the fourth pattern, we're talking about the first pattern. Now I've already decided I like that one better, so if I decide in editing to use this camera, I'm looking over there the entire time, sorry about it. Anyway, so here's your fifth octave, or your fifth root, and your octave for the fifth pattern, right, is right here. Okay, your octave for the fourth pattern is back here. But that's not the direction we need to be going. So we've got to look at the fifth pattern again. Alright, so in the fifth pattern, we've got a root here and an octave here. We've got 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4. So here's your octave. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to make that the root. What's up, man?
What's up? Sorry.
You coming in to record? Or?
I was coming in to turn this stuff off and grab my keys.
Okay. So now this is our root. So we want to find the octave. The octave is going to be in this direction. So we can just do this. Same exact pattern. Skip a string, skip a fret. The problem with that is the line O confusion. That moves everything one fret. So there's your octave. So there's a lot of stuff written on the board right now. So let me clean this up. The octave pattern that we're going to be using here is this. Skip a string, skip 2 frets. Now, both of those are going to appear in the next pattern. So, you'll use the same root note. That's the octave shape. Now, if we look here, this is the note where I've got marked as a root. Now, the octave is also the root. It's just an octave above. All right? So, looking at that pattern, that's where we end up with our next root. So the first pattern, you can find a root note on either the D string or the B string. So now we want to solo in the key of A. So we want to look on the D string and the B string right now. So, quick, answer this question. In D string, where do you find an A? Possibly. B string, where would you find an A? Alright, so on the D string, it's going to be on the 7th fret. And on the B string, it's going to be on the 10th fret. One whole step down from the B is an A. Here, the way I think of it is this open A and that 7th fret, they're an octave apart. Like this open E and this note here, they're an octave apart. So that's an E on the 7th fret. That's a D on the 7th fret here. Okay, it's an octave apart. It doesn't work when you get to the B string because of the line of confusion. So these are our A's. Now you need to play this pattern so that your fingers cross those A's. So you will not actually start on the 7th fret because the lowest note on the E string is not on the 7th fret. The lowest note is here. So we get 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4. That is how you play the first pattern in the key of A minor. And so your fifth pattern would have these same notes, but you would add that. So if you're playing here, you're playing the fifth pattern. If you're playing all of these, these notes, you're playing the first pattern. That is what we were trying to recognize today, which I guess we would have if I had not told you all the crazy stuff that I told you previously. All right, so fifth pattern, first pattern. We actually need to go up the guitar, not down the guitar. I apologize for that. So let's take a look at this now. Where would your first pattern go in the key of the song that we're actually in? Now the key of the song is, sure, it's E flat, but when you tune the strings down, it actually looks like E minor, not E flat, because you know, the E flat is on, say, the sixth string of the A, a sixth fret of the A string, okay, instead of the seventh, because that's how you get the flat. But your strings are tuned down, so let's just say it's in E minor. So we're going to call, for instance, like the top string E, no matter what you've got it tuned to. Okay, so we're going to call it E. So what I want you to do right now is, using the first pattern, the root notes that we spoke about, on the strings that we spoke about, get out a piece of paper and a pencil right now. By the way, pause this until you have paper and pencil, because what I'm about to tell you to do is going to be extremely unfair if you don't have pencil and paper before you continue with this video. So pause it, pencil, paper, come back. So I'm assuming you have pencil and paper now. So we are going to put the first pattern in the key of E minor. This pattern is actually played in the key of E minor in the song Little Wing. And like right off the bat in the song, it's just pretty soon into the song, you're actually going to need this pattern. You may not have acknowledged it yet, but that's what we're doing right now so that we get a little better at the guitar. So when I say go, you're going to draw a guitar fretboard up to at least the 7th frets, I'd say, and then draw in the pattern in the right location on the guitar and put a square around the 2 root notes. Go. Okay, so I almost got the root note wrong. All right, little secret about, well, I mean, I guess, like, you know, keep drawing if you're still going. A little bit secrets about why I was able to figure this out so fast, but I almost got the root notes wrong. So, like, how do I know where to put this if I have the root notes wrong? The secret to this is that I didn't have the root note wrong for what I was thinking of in my mind. The relative major to B minor is G major. So every major key has a relative minor key. Every minor key has a relative major key, and what that means is both of the keys use the same exact notes. The only difference is the root note. I happen to know that E minor and G major are relative keys, so I put this on the 3rd fret because that is what I was using to find my way around the guitar. This is maybe okay for this song because when you use this pattern, when you're playing Little Wing, you're actually playing a G major chord. So it's not really that bad. However, as per my instructions previously, which were, as soon as a way of knowing the guitar works for you, quit using that way so that you get better at understanding the guitar. I broke that rule because I didn't use those E's. So if you were actually finding an E on the guitar, in order to place your first pattern, you actually, by default, win because I misbehaved. I didn't do the exercise. Alright, so that's how we find how to put our first finger down, you know, I'm sorry, how to put our first pattern down? Not first finger. How to place our first pattern in a minor key, assuming that we know where the root notes are. If you don't know where the root notes are, you can still do it, but it has to be relative to the other patterns, and that's very labor intensive. It's not a good idea. I mean, you can do it, but it's just not a good idea. So there you have it. So the things that I would practice finding on the guitar, practice drawing them as well. Practice drawing your patterns, put a square or a circle around the root notes. Practice drawing the different octave patterns that we have. Now here, this one crosses the line of confusion, so it appears like it's larger than the normal octave pattern. It's not, because your B string is tuned differently. So there's 3 different octave shapes that we looked at. You'll want to be pretty familiar with those. That's very helpful. Find them on your guitar, draw them on a chart, and we're ultimately going to want to be really good at finding E's, A's, and B's on our guitar so that we have freedom to play Little Wing. And then, it's a lot of technique practice, like just play your scales every day. And I guess that's pretty much it. So